This is going to be our second Kickstarter podcast for The First Curse. If you don't know what The First Curse is yet, I don't know how you found this, but we are a Kickstarter for a horror short directed by Tomm Jacobsen, one of the directors of Dude Bro Party Massacre 3, written by Tomm Jacobsen and myself, James Ashby, formerly of SMBC Theater. We've done comedy for a whole lot of years. This is our first major horror project to share with people, and we're very, very excited about it. The Kickstarter runs from October 15th until sometime in November, and you should go to the webpage and take a look at everything and give us money and let people know about us. Especially right now, probably if you're hearing this, you are somebody who has already supported us in the past, and you're getting this as part of our mailing list. In which case, thank you guys so much for paying attention and liking things and leaving us comments. The best thing you can possibly do for us is share, like, and comment everywhere that you can. You know, we've been a little bit gone for the last few years, and the algorithm thinks we're dead. So helping it remember that we are alive is a very big deal. All right. So with all of that said, that's our little First Curse, a primordial... First Curse, a primordial horror film set 40,000 years ago during the extinction of the Neanderthals. It is very gory. It is not scary. Past comedy audiences, we cannot reinforce that enough. This is not funny. It is very disturbing. It is very dark. As a point of fact, Tom, I recorded my son screaming and crying earlier because I think we might use it as part of an audio sample for the beginning of the Kickstarter video. I thought it might be kind of cool.
Fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, so we are doing these podcasts kind of just to let people know what we're up to, what's going on. Any big news that we have. We don't have a lot of news yet other than we're going to launch in like 3 days. And so you're catching us in the middle of our Friday of emailing every random acquaintance that we have ever had in our lives and doing that part of the Kickstarter where you tell people that might care about you that you're going to do it and you feel uncomfortable and weird while you're doing that. But we're taking a break from that to talk about the project a little bit. I think the last time that we did this, we talked in general terms about where the project started, the impulse for it, and our approach to it, and our history and how that supported it. Go ahead and check that out. It's about 20-30 minutes long. We know that you haven't listened to it yet unless you're one of the 4 people who do. So give that a shot. I think this time we wanted to dig in a little bit more about the nerdery of how we're thinking about pulling some of this stuff off, and also answer a couple of the questions that have popped up on the pre-launch page for the Kickstarter, and generally just encourage folks to take a look and consider it. So first off, Mr. Jacobsen, let's talk cameras. So First Curse takes place in a number of challenging areas and has a number of challenges in terms of the techniques and technology necessary to pull it off. Not the least of which is we have some of it set at night in a forest. And you would think that of all the things that would not be that expensive to do, night in a forest would be there, but it actually is a very complicated thing to do right. And not something that we picked at random or just because it felt spookier. We think it's important to pull off, so we're going to do it. And I know, Tom, you've been talking to a lot of folks about how to do that. Do you want to chat about that a little bit, or we can just, noodle about cameras in any way you have? I'm so out of my depth. This is the extent of my ability to intro this. After this, it's just going to be like, and then a lens that is like an eye, but for a camera.
Yeah, no worries. Well, yeah, I've been talking to a bunch of DP friends and the person who we're going to get to shoot this. Sadako, thank you so much. If you're watching video, she's giving me kisses. If you're just hearing audio, she was giving me kisses. So everything's kind of still up in the air, right? We haven't locked down a camera. I have friends that all own cameras. Like I have friends with Red Dragons. I have friends with Alexas. I have friends with A7Ss. And all of them have their own kind of benefits and flaws. So the camera's still kind of up in the air. Don't know which camera we're going to shoot it on. Willing to take suggestions.
We would love, if we have any audience members out there that consider themselves big camera geeks, we're always willing to listen to folks' opinions.
Yeah.
about how to pull things off.
So the first, filming at night in the forest doesn't seem like it'd be expensive, but that means you have to light everything. And just one small light won't do it. That looks kind of terrible when someone just has a spotlight on them and the rest of them is dark. So you have to light as far as the eye can almost see in a forest, right? So that requires a giant, at least a 2,000 watt light to maybe 5,000 watt light, a generator to be able to run that, someone to man said light because, well, you don't want to just leave a burning hot light burning in the middle of the woods on its
How
own.
could
So
that
you gotta
go
have,
bad?
yeah, so you gotta have, you want someone there standing by, making sure that it's not smoking or catching anything on fire because that's the worst possible thing. Um, and then a lot of cameras, it's just, depending on how good the lenses you get are, how good the camera is, it's how much more light you're going to need to make it look not YouTube-y.
Right.
If that's like a look, I mean, that's a look that I bet a bunch of people like will look at a short or look at a feature and be like, oh, that looks like a feature film, or it looks like a YouTube sketch. And there's like,
Absolutely, I do that.
yeah,
I would say that the first wave of judgment I have with anything is sort of how it makes me feel in terms of the look and the sound design within the first 2 to 3 seconds.
yeah,
You
for
just
sure.
sort of decide what you're watching based on that to a certain degree.
Yeah, so if it has bad sound, obviously you're not going to keep watching it. And if it just looks, I mean, I don't want to say amateurish because there's been a bunch of amateur things that look amazing and like fit the tone,
Well, and
that they're going.
I started amateurish in the
Yeah,
extreme. You go back to some of those old SMBC theaters and your description of one hard light and yeah, it was like, yeah, we did that. We did that a
yeah,
lot. We did that in every living room I lived in for a number of years. So
and it's great to do that, but I think for this where the atmosphere has to play,
no, it
um,
absolutely.
we're gonna.
Comedy, you get away with a little bit more. Sketch comedy, obviously, you get
Yeah,
away with that kind of rough ride. You did that in 5 second films too, right? There's a point
yeah,
in which as long as
there-
it serves the joke, it's fine. But when you move to drama and you move to things where you want the audience to really seriously, emotionally connect with the story that you're telling, you almost need a higher level of artifice to get it to
mhm.
disappear so that people can engage with the world without worrying about that aspect. And I feel like if it looks like YouTube, if it looks amateurish, it takes you out of the experience. It can be stylized. There's 1,000 different ways that you can stylize a narrative, but it has to feel polished and intentional to really have that kind of impact with the audience.
Yeah, and like there have been movies like Danny Boyle shot 28 Days Later on an XL2, which compared to film is like child's play,
Yeah,
but
but I
it
remember seeing a
served the
lot of
purpose of that
people's.
movie.
I remember seeing a lot of people's short films shot on an XL2 back in the day, and he may have shot it on an XL2, but he had a real crew with him. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah. So it's all about how you use the camera. So the goal is, well before we shoot to do a camera test where I would love to get our lead Neanderthal actor in full makeup. Maybe not, chest down, but like full face makeup, and then do some tests where we're running around during the daytime and trying to do day for night, which I've seen pulled off pretty successfully, especially now with the range that modern day cameras have, like an Alexa or a Red, and what you can do in post, like a DaVinci program, where you can just pull and push colors to their most extreme and making a nighttime scene or a daytime scene look like it's shot at night doesn't look as hokey as it used to.
Yeah, to my
Uh,
mind, that's like the scariest thing. Yeah, my very first job when I came out to Hollywood was working for the Asylum Studios back in like 2002, before they
yeah,
were even doing the mockbusters. And they shot day for night, and it looked horrible. But that was also 15, 16 years ago now, and a lot of technology in the past. And I think that obviously we would want to do a camera test to make sure that it does do what we want it to do. But exploring the option, certainly makes things a lot cheaper. And if we can get the visual that we want, could give us a lot more flexibility in what we
yeah.
can do. So
And then there's the idea of shooting at night, but with a camera that is very sensitive to lights, like an A7S can shoot upwards of 20,000 ISO, you get a lot of grain and you get some problems in there, but now there are programs out there that will compensate for those things.
Right. And it's just about what happens to the quality of the image. Does it get too
Yeah.
polished looking, too smooth? That can happen a little bit with noise cancelers.
Yeah, there's short films out there that are shot entirely with moonlight in like a field or a desert. And you get a little weird effects in the sky, like the sky doesn't know what it's doing really. But for the short film, it actually fit very well and worked
Yeah.
with them.
Totally.
Hopefully, the forest will be thick enough and the sky won't be that much of a problem. But
I think if we're seeing a lot of sky in that forest to begin with, we have other issues with what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. So obviously we're going for a thick forest look, a thick, very overhung canopy look. But yeah, so cameras haven't been locked down, but we will be doing tests in the coming months, and we'll share all those information that we get. We'll do side-by-side comparisons and kind of break it down how we kind of came to the decision on which lens and camera to shoot with.
Kickstarter backer content and information. So if you would care to back the Kickstarter, this is the sort of thing that you'll get to see the nuts and bolts of as we work on it over the next year. Sorry, I have to do it, John. I have to do that part. In any case.
So lenses. I've had a ton of suggestions from people. I have a friend who owns a company that has a huge collection of old lenses from the 60s and 70s, which I can't wait to get my hands on and play around with. I think those will give us a very fun, unique look as opposed to some of the crispier lenses that are out now, some of the new modern lenses. I think will just be a little too clean for the gritty realism that we're kind of going for. I think I'm going to bring it up again and probably a bunch because it's my least favorite period film is Public Enemy with Johnny Depp, where he plays John Dillinger. And it's just so clean and Hollywood looking that nothing about that film works. So we want to make it look like a Hollywood film, but it needs to have a certain grit and feel to it. Almost like what Danny Boyle did with 28 Days Later, where it looks like a Hollywood film, but it feels dirty and raw.
Yeah, well, my version of that, because I've been focused on TV pitching for the last couple of years, would be the distinction between cable and network television. I feel like if you watch network television, all of it feels like it's sort of candy coated in a way. Like it's so polished, it becomes very fake. And you can kind of just tell from the production quality. It has nothing to do with the story they're telling. They could be telling a cop drama, or it could be like a tween romance, but it all looks the same. And I think that that's something we want to avoid. We're looking for something very specific and something very unique. And part of that voice is going to be the visual execution of what we're doing. This isn't one where you just say, well, it's well lit and competently shot, so we're done. Like that's not what we're trying to do. So I think I'm excited. I'm excited that you're thinking about using the old lenses. I think I know what that means. I probably don't, but that's always a joy for me with this kind of thing is I get to write it and then it's Christmas Day when people make it look cool. I think I'm excited to dig into that. And I'm excited to kind of do some of these tests and stuff too. I think that's important and something that you wouldn't necessarily think of right away, but makeup tests, camera tests, these are kinds of things that we're doing to make sure that when we spend the giant pile of money to shoot the real short, we're achieving the look and the style that we intend, and that we've really gotten granular about these decisions. We're not just saying, oh, well, my buddy's got a camera. So our buddies have every camera in the universe. It's about which camera we want to use and what's going to make the best version of this short, the most impactful version. So
yeah, and it all comes down to which kind of shots we're going to do and how the action will look, and how to build an ARRI out all the way, that camera can get like 2.5 feet long and weigh upwards of 55 pounds. That might not be the best idea for us. We may want to,
especially with some of the shots we're trying to pull off, which is a weird. I think that for those of our backers and supporters that are in the film industry, this is not news to you. You deal with it all the time. But if you don't make film for a living, the physical logistics of making something can be extreme and can be a very big challenge in and of themselves. I remember, just you can just wrangle cable on sand for a day, and you'll end up with bloody hands. There's just things about the reality of doing this. Now, some of them are just about sucking it up and experiencing some hardship, and that happens. But some of it really comes down to severe limitations as to what you can actually achieve and capture on film. If the camera's too big and too unwieldy, your number of setups, which means the number of different shots you can do that day, get cut down by a lot. The kinds of shots you can do get reduced by a lot because you've got to plan for tearing everything down. You've got to figure out a way to make this impossibly long, heavy, awkward, delicate thing point in exactly the right direction. So, if you're doing easy mid shots and wide setups, that's one thing. But if you're looking for some close, very visceral, very emotionally impactful moments, you have to think about, can I even fit the camera in that section?
Yeah.
I learned that during SMBC Theater while crouched with a 5D with an awkwardly long lens in my hands while I was shoved into the farthest recesses of a closet just to try to get, the slightly upward angle we wanted on somebody's face in a room that was too small to do that. So
yeah. I always think back to that episode of The Simpsons where they shoot a movie in their house and a Teamster kind of comes through and he's like, hey, we need to run a cable through here. And he just smashes a hole in the wall. And it's like, yeah, in a big Hollywood film, you could probably smash a hole in the wall and like put the back of a camera in there or do something or whatever you needed to do. But we're trying not to smash anything besides, our actors.
right. Other than the things we plan to smash. Hey.
Yeah. But yeah, so going to be doing a bunch of camera tests, makeup tests as well. Do not want to show up on set and the first time we see what our actors look like in full makeup, you don't want to do that. So we're going to do that a couple weeks ahead of time. Make sure everyone is comfortable and it doesn't look hokey. It doesn't look like something we bought from like, a Halloween store and just glued to our actor's head.
Yeah, especially that's such a risk for us because the lead is not human. So you either buy it and invest in the story, or you think that looks stupid and we're screwed. Like that's kind of it.
Yeah, and this isn't like mocap, so it's like nothing can be changed. We don't have the money to change it in post.
No.
And like extended a nostril. So we kind of have to make it work with makeup. But luckily I know a bunch of really fantastic makeup artists.
Yeah, this is the reason that we think we can pull this project off really comes down to the years that we have spent doing this kind of thing up to this moment. This isn't our first time. We're not just out of film school saying we've got an idea we think we could pull off. We've been doing bad ideas for a long time now and learning from significant and insignificant mistakes along the way. And I think, especially you, Tom, after the last 10 years of working in LA in camera and with, 5-second films, but also just yourself freelancing and getting to know people, the Rolodex of very talented, interesting people that we can access and ask for some help to pull this thing off is really amazing. It's an incredible asset that most people don't have. Now it's not free. It's not free because you don't want people who work for free. When people work for free, they do free work, and free work looks okay. But we could probably get them to work for us for less than when they charge Marvel. You know what I mean?
Yes, for sure. And it's about, I guess, just surrounding yourself with your filmmaking family.
Yeah, I that's well, this is a million years ago, but one thing that I discovered a long time ago, when I was much younger, I found the idea of networking to be almost impossible.
My least favorite.
Yeah, it terrified me, and it took my realizing that my version, at least, of networking, and I think that the emotionally healthy version in general, was about finding people I already liked that happen to do the things I like doing,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think that, when you say film family, I think there's a reason that you'll see the same names pop up on every production of a certain director's works and this kind of thing, because it is a long-term intimate relationship to work on this kind of stuff, and it's the kind of thing where you end up with the people that you know you can count on and people that you feel comfortable with that can really help you make something possible, because
Yeah.
you can't
I mean,
one-man band a real professional film production. It's not a, it's a physical impossibility, I would say, to pull
yeah.
it
I mean,
off completely as a lone actor.
for sure. This town is full of snakes, but once you kind of weed through them, you can find like some true gems, and you just keep those people around. Um, you know,
That's life. Most
yeah,
people
that's
are
life.
snakes.
Most people are snakes.
I'm awful. Well, cool. All right. Well, I think, we're coming up on 23 minutes. This is it's Friday, the Friday before we launch the Kickstarter. So next Tuesday is when we're going to launch. We're going to be putting this podcast up with the first one for our pre-backer audience, and then we'll toss it up on the Kickstarter page as well. Do we want to do Q&A this episode, or do we want to wait until Monday and do Q&A during some of the live stream? Maybe some of the live stream is a little bit better for that.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, let's do a Q&A then.
Yeah, so everybody here, we're going to be doing the Q&A answers, but we're going to do that on Monday. We're planning on doing a live stream to sort of celebrate launching the Kickstarter. Obviously, we hope you guys will all join us for that. We're going to be making an event on Facebook in just a moment when we get off here to invite some folks to that. And obviously, if you're following the Kickstarter, when the Kickstarter goes live, we will also go live with our live stream, and we'll have a link up to it there. We'll also send an email out to our mailing list and all that kind of good stuff. We love you guys very, very, very much, and there will be more updates in the very near future. And look at the cute dog.
Yeah.
Look at that cute dog. Hello, Sadako.
Sweet. Thanks, guys, for watching or listening or however you consumed this. And Mr. Ashby, I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Yes, sir. I'll talk to you very soon. Love you, Mr. Tomm Jacobsen.
Love you. Bye.